What would it take to see Bitcoin break out of this range that we've been seeing? And what's your explanation for why we're seeing kind of more altcoins? You know, some of them are a little bit stranger than others, start to create a bit of more dominance in this market.
Sure. Well, I honestly, yeah, it's great to be back. Thank you. And I honestly don't know what's going to take Bitcoin to break this. There's a number of factors that could happen, but I think it's probably just going to be time. I think with all the macroeconomic things that's happening, with the amount of quantitative easing and the amount of fiat flowing into the economy, I think sooner or later it's going to break out. But right now, for the last little while, Bitcoin has been really stable, and people have been calling the stable coin now. So our data also shows that it is very much a out season right now. So I think right now Binance futures, more than 60% of the volume come from altcoins, which is actually much higher than before. And also, when we look at the top performers for Q2 from March 31st to June 31st, of the 200 coins that's listed on Binance, only 3 went down. So I guess it is very much a altcoin. What's fueling it is a little bit is anybody's guess. I guess there's a number of different factors. Even Elon Musk tweeting about Dogecoin could be it, could be part of it. So yeah, I mean, we don't know, but it is very active right now.
We all laughed when Dogecoin was created, right? It's just been an extraordinary story. I want to get your views on this Twitter hacking that we saw last week and the direction that people were told to direct Bitcoin into 3 different accounts. There is more of a paper trail, but does this kind of give a bit more, fire to those who criticize users of Bitcoin for being, I guess, supporting some of the lack of transparency and the fact that there is more criminality when it comes to transactions associated with Bitcoin and altcoins as well?
So I think Bitcoin is actually more transparent than traditional fiat. If somebody robbed the bank, it's actually quite difficult to trace the fiat cash. Whereas with Bitcoin, there is an audit trail, and people know there are 3 addresses, and people are tracking it now. I think I'm actually pretty confident that given the way the hack is done and the crime is done, people will be able to track it with a very high degree of certainty. So I think it only happened the case only happened a few days ago. So hopefully, give it some time. I think law enforcement probably will have a pretty good chance of cracking it. So again, this is not a case where Bitcoin did something wrong. It's just the hacker wanted a Bitcoin because it's valuable. So same as when people rob a bank, we don't say the cash is wrong. It's just the bad players wants cash. So I think that's just the situation.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, they didn't refer this scam to a bank account or to cash, deliveries. They actually used the degree of anonymity that Bitcoin actually provides in order to engage in this criminal behavior. Will this at least have an impact when it comes to the reputation of cryptocurrencies?
I don't think so anymore. I think people nowadays understand that it's not Bitcoin doing the crime. It's just Bitcoin is valuable. Bitcoin is a better form of money than fiat. So it's more transferable, it's more anonymous. But the Bitcoin does leave a very clear, easy to follow trail on the blockchain. So it's public and it's permanent. And also with this incident, I think Bitcoin got a lot of publicity. How often do you get like ex-presidents, Elon Musk or whoever else tweeting about Bitcoin? Although we wish that you could be more positive news, but it is what it is.
Any news is good news, sort of that idea there. CZ, let me ask you about, say, another idea that crypto enthusiasts go to, the idea that cryptocurrencies can act as safe havens, especially at a time when you want to hedge against the macroeconomic environment when you have inflation and the likes. But then during this whole pandemic, we have really seen, say, Bitcoin, Ethereum, behave like other assets. At one point in the pandemic, we saw Bitcoin and Ethereum moving in lockstep with the S&P 500. So what has this crisis shown us about what this cryptocurrency hedge actually means?
Sure. I think people should not take that meaning of safe haven assets too literally. We need to look at, there are always multiple factors affecting the price of an asset. And if you imagine Bitcoin as the same as a float, and there's a Titanic sinking beside it, if there's a rope tying to the float to the Titanic, then the float will sink down with the Titanic. Even though the float does have floating properties, it's just not able to sustain that kind of load. I think when we look at traditional markets, on March 12th, the whole market crashed. Stock market is probably 1,000 times bigger than crypto markets. When that goes down, and a lot of people are losing a lot of money, and many of those people who have crypto investments will want to convert those investments into cash. So that it has a drag-down effect when a large asset type or asset category is going down. But I think if you look at the longer time horizon, with so much quantitative easing, with so much fiat flowing around, I think the safe haven properties of Bitcoin will come through over time.
CZ, what do you make of China's cryptocurrency ambitions?
Well, I think it's great. I think 2 years ago, when we talked on this forum first time, I would have not imagined that central banks, or especially like central banks of China, could be looking at cryptocurrencies so quickly. And I think regardless of how good the digital currency is issued by them, but you don't get too many chances of educating 1.4 billion people. And this is a central government, central bank of China doing that now. So now 1.4 million people will be educated on by the government for blockchain crypto digital currencies. And I think once people use it, once people understand how blockchain currencies work, they will naturally learn about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as well. I think that's great exposure. I think that's great for our industry.
Right, and with the likes of Meituan Dianping and Didi being involved, and we know how quickly digital finance really can grow in China and gets taken up by the demographic, right? So is there a real opportunity that sometime soon we could see a Chinese digital currency kind of replace the RMB even in common consumer usage?
I think it's very likely. I think it's also much easier in China than most people outside of China think. China's currencies are already very digital. Most people pay with WeChat or Alipay with a QR code scanning. You just need two apps, one showing the QR code, the other one scanning. Very few people use cash, even as, 2 or 3 years ago in China. So it's already very digital. Is that the difference now is that there's a blockchain component added into the DCEP. And with that, I think there's a very small hurdle to jump for people to understand blockchain now. And after that, then it's another small step for people to understand Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So I think I think it's almost guaranteed to happen. So the chance of that happening is very high, in my opinion.
CZ, before we let you go, just give us an update on any interesting trading patterns that you've seen during this pandemic lockdown, and perhaps some of the regional differences that you felt.
Sure. I think now compared to 2.5 years ago, we see a lot of differences now. So the last time we spoke, Binance was like the sort of big crypto-to-crypto spot exchange, but now we are also the biggest free futures exchange now. So we see a lot of volume moving to futures because the trading there is a bit cheaper and you get more leverage, etc. I think that's also overall the market as well. There's more futures exchanges this time. And we're seeing more and more of the sort of DeFi is a very hot space. So there's a lot of activity in the DeFi. But again, that's a very new area. There's a lot of risks. There's a lot of potential risks there. I want to warn all the viewers that if you do go into those areas, do go there with caution.